Lions have had a busy 24 hours in free agency. I'm sure most of you are waking up and learning about David Montgomery as our new potential starting running back for the Detroit Lions. Emmanuel Mosley was added to the cornerback room to give us some depth there, potentially another starter. And John Kaminsky is coming back to town on a 2-year deal. So we've got all that to talk about. And as I'm sure you're telling from the thumbnail, we're also going to dive into what the first 48 hours of free agency for Detroit is going to do to impact our 4.0 mock draft. I think things are starting to come into play. I think you're starting to understand where we're going with directions. So let's talk about all these things and maybe just a little bit more in today's Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for making time out of your morning to come on in to Lions Talk Live and listen to Mock Draft 4.0, hear a little bit about these free agent signings and all that's changing with the Detroit Lions leading into 2023. Now, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Take you a second, maybe a second and a half, hit the subscription button, leave a thumbs up, maybe even a little bit of chatter in the comments section below. Let's talk about David Montgomery. Is he an upgrade over Jamal Williams? It's going to depend on who you ask. In my opinion, though, overall, he is a slight upgrade. Why isn't Jamal back? Well, the only thing you and I can guess and ascertain is that Jamal Williams simply wanted more of a contract than when Montgomery was given. Montgomery was given a 3-year deal, roughly $6 million per year. Not horrible by today's running back standards, but I do believe Detroit got a very good value deal there. It's reportedly that Cincinnati, Buffalo, among other teams, are looking at Jamal Williams, and for whatever reasons, it just didn't work out. He's going to be taking off more and less unless Lions are going to bring in another running back, but I doubt that. So we're going to have to look forward to what Montgomery and Swift and anybody they draft can do for this team. I've got a question for all of you, though. What do you think of the signings so far in free agency? My opinion, I'm pretty happy with them. Running back position, yes, I get Jamal Williams, and we talked about this yesterday on Lions Nation Unite with Micro Mike and Herman Moore and Mark Forms, that really is Williams' value in his leadership role or his production role. And in my opinion, we talked about it, and I threw out the idea, is more of his value in the locker room details. And there is a value to that. But the question becomes, how much of a value was there for that skill set? And that's the tough part. I mean, if Jamal was wanting $9-10 million a year, if you're the general manager and you can get David Montgomery for $6, is one offsetting the other? That's information we don't know. That's something we'll all have to wait and say, hey, when he gets signed somewhere, what's he getting? Well, if it was vastly more than we can afford, then unfortunately, you have to make that choice. But enough about that. Let's all dive in now to the mock draft 4.0. And I'd really be interested to see what you guys think of some of these picks, because now that we've got some direction with free agency, I'm liking where this draft could set up. All right, let's get going with the draft. As you can see, if you're looking up on your screen, Bryce Young goes number 1 to Carolina. No, probably big surprise there. C.J. Stroud does go to the Texans. Jalen Carter. Now, hear me out on this. We're projecting Jalen Carter will go number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals, barring the Cardinals trading down or back, however you want to term it, because they did just sign linebacker and they already have Simmons, so we don't think they're going to go after Will Anderson Jr. Colts, no surprise here, going for a quarterback. They're going to take Anthony Richardson. A little bit of a surprise here with Seattle and Miles Murphy, but the Seahawks, at least for their PR department, have been very public about wanting Murphy. So it makes sense that they actually follow through with that and go after that. And then we have the Detroit Lions up, and Will Anderson Jr. is going to fall to the Detroit Lions at number 6. Now, here's my question to Lions fans out there, and if you can, leave your comments in the section below. Do you have Houston on one side? You're going to put Anderson Jr. on the other side. Where do you have Rodrigo play if Anzalone is also there? Because both of them are, as we know, are under contract. Do you go with Anzalone? I mean, I think you have to. You just signed him to a new contract. Just food for thought, but I'd like to see what you guys think of that. Now, let's go to the next pick. So pick 18 comes up on the board. The Lions, with just having signed last night David Montgomery, we had thoughts of having them take Robinson, the running back. Instead, a trade emerges. Detroit gets pick 24 and pick 56 from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they use that to select some of their needs, etc. But the Lions just moved back, as you can tell, a couple spots in a position of need. Now, obviously, if something happens in free agency to change this, but we're picking right now Osiris Terrence. If you're unfamiliar with this kid out of Florida, he's a guard, 6'5", somewhere in the neighborhood of 330 to 340 pounds. Just, massive elite size for this kid. Powerful frame, great length if you look at his arm size. And he can really use that to his advantage to win leverage situations against defensive linemen, etc., to help open up holes in the running game. And the kid's not bad in pass protection either. His core strength allows him to really take on a lot of rushers, meet them, especially bull rush moves. And he's got the upper body strength, as we talked about, the lower body strength, to really use that to his advantage. So, a position of need currently based on free agency so far. And I think, man, you're building a strength for the Detroit Lions, making it even stronger, that offensive line. So whoever's back there at quarterback, Goff's got all day, running backs, whoever we're going to use, whether it's Montgomery or Swift, man, they're going to have some holes. So to us, this makes a lot of sense. All right, so now we're going to move to pick 48, second round. And I think this is going to be one that will be a little debated. Some people are going to love this pick. Some people are going to question it. But the Lions were not able to get Carter, so here they're going to address the defensive front, and they're going to take Kalijah Cansey. I get he is the superstar, breakout defensive lineman performer from the NFL Combine, and I think pairing him up with Ali McNeil and some of the other parts up front, the Lions are going to have the ability to really get after opposing quarterbacks. The only real question on Cansey so far is just his overall weight. He's just a shade under 280, which I'm sure we're all aware. That's a little light for a defensive tackle in the NFL. So is he going to have to perhaps bulk up a little bit, try to get to 285, maybe 290? That's, probably over the next season or two, yes. But what cannot be denied is this kid's incredible athleticism, his ability to manipulate his body, to put himself in positions to get around offensive linemen. I mean, I get he's compared to Aaron Donald among other people, but I would just say this. He's very rare as far as somebody of that size with that kind of strength in the upper body, lower body, and quickness. I think it's too good of an opportunity to pass by for Detroit. All right, moving on down to the next pick, and we don't have to wait very long. Tariq Stevenson. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this kid, cornerback, and yes, we did sign a couple cornerbacks in free agency, as everybody's aware, but let's also try to remember one of those guys is on a prove-it deal. Jeff Okudah's in the last year of his contract, so the Lions are going to be a little proactive, get Stevenson's. By the way, this kid is fast. He's got a 4.43 40-yard dash. He's 6 foot, and check out that mass. 210 to 215 pounds. That's a big corner who can fly. Also look at his vertical jump, just a shade under 38 inches. And that's impressive. So you got size, you got strength, you got long strides. If you watch him as he glides down the field, especially in his 40-yard dash, he's another person. Great athleticism, needs a little bit of development here and there in a couple different spots, but we're projecting Stevenson's to go to the Detroit Lions, like we said, with pick 55. Now, let's get into pick 56. At pick 56, the Lions are going to go with Christopher Smith II, safety out of Georgia. No other returning player to Georgia secondary had more interceptions than Smith II did last year. He's just a shade under 6 foot, 195, 200 pounds, big hitter, while he also has the frame and the strength that come out and really, when you see him coming downhill at people, you can see why people get out of his path. He's got fluid strides, a great lateral quickness, and he's got bigger, most important thing to me, he's got the speed to patrol the deep part of any field in situations. If they're going to go one high safety, etc., he can patrol sideline to sideline, much like a Kirby Joseph. So now you got the potential in time to have two younger safeties out there, both who can lay the lumber on people, both that can cover sideline to sideline. They can get out there and read defenses as well while offering the speed to be able to cover any kind of reads. So huge pickup here, I believe, for the Detroit Lions. We don't have a ton of depth there right now unless Okudah or somebody else is going to get moved back there to safety. But at least as it stands today, the 15th day of March, this makes the most sense for Lions at this pick because you're going to have to put some more depth on the board, and this allows us to keep costs down. All right, the Lions now have to wait a little bit of time before their next pick. So they're going to go from pick 56 to 152. And that's when they're going to pick up wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. Mingo, if you are unfamiliar with him, he's a wide receiver out of Ole Miss, 6'2", 225 pounds, and the kid's got a little bit of wheels to him. Ran the 40-yard dash at the combine at 4.46 seconds. While we still don't know if DJ Chark is going to return to the Detroit Lions, let's be honest, a lot of the parts here now in the draft are going to be targets for projections and to add depth to the team. Fortunately, because the last few years have been great drafts, it's going to be hard for any rookies to legitimately come in and start, at least the vast majority of them. Probably the next foreseeable future, the days of getting 4 to 5 starters out of your draft are beyond Detroit at this point. They're going to have to get players to come in, grow, develop, keep salary costs down while also providing depth. And in our opinion, Jonathan Mingo does that very nicely. All right, next pick is not a whole lot longer later than the Mingos, but we're going to get a quarterback depth here, assuming the Lions don't sign one in free agency. This is where we're currently projecting at pick 183. Most of us are highly aware of this kid, Max Duggan, the quarterback out of TCU. Yes, he's got some mobility. Yes, he's got an arm. Yes, he has some accuracy issues. But in an ideal position to be able to sit back, grow behind Jared Goff for some seasons, is he ever going to be able to challenge Goff for the starting spot? Let's just wait and see what happens. But what we can say is the Lions do not have a backup right now. They need to keep some salary costs down. So getting someone like Duggan here later in the draft achieves both salary cap space, developmental out of your backup quarterback position, and offers a little bit more athletic option at quarterback if the kid can be developed. All right, moving on to the last pick for the Lions in this year's draft, and that's going to be at 194. Probably not a big shocker to most of you out there. Kicker Jake Moody, the kid from Michigan. This does a couple of things like we've talked about with several of these last picks. You're going to be able to jettison an older veteran who's making a little bit more money and bring in someone who's younger, cheaper, and in Moody's case, you're going to get a starter who's got more upside, I believe, than our current option. He's going to be better from the field goal attempts, 45 to 55 yards. He's got bigger leg strength, kickoffs. He can kick them deeper, maybe even help save your special teams because there won't be a ton of kickoff return attempts with Moody out there booting him. So it makes sense to us to get younger, somebody who can be around for potentially a decade while saving costs at the kicker position for the next, we'll say 3 to 4 years. All right, well, that's it for Mock Draft 4.0. Personally, I love the way it went. It's unfortunate that, Arizona got Carter. I would have really loved to have gotten him. But Will Anderson Jr. on the opposite side of Houston, man, you can really put in some Blitzburg packages with those guys. So my question for you guys, if this plays out, What do you do with Anzalone and Rodrigo? Somebody's going to have to sit, and I'd be curious to see what you guys say about all that. I think the Lions have got a lot of good options out of this draft that are going to come in and get immediate needs. You're going to get potentially a starting outside linebacker, defensive tackle, right guard off the bat. And now you've added depth at many positions. Yes, we're able to get a new kicker and save costs there. Yes, we're able to get a backup quarterback and save some costs there. And that's one thing I don't think us as fans talk about enough. What do you do to make all the pieces of the puzzle fit under the salary cap? I think the Lions are definitely trending the way where next year they're going to have even more cap, and they're going to be in a position with some more depth or potentially a new starter or two via free agency in the draft. All right. Well, let me know in the comment section below what you guys thought of this mock draft. And if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Hit that subscription button, leave a thumbs up. We'll see you all next time on Lions Talk Live.